YouTube, my name's Sean Collins and welcome back to the Outsiders channel. Now today we're going to be looking at Cthulhu. This is actually Cthulhu 6th edition, but it's not because I don't have an original copy of Cthulhu. I do have an original 2nd edition box set of Cthulhu, but the thing has disintegrated and is being held together by a couple of staples. It's barely, if I took it out it would, I think I'd fail my Cthulhu Mythos check and probably end up being consumed by some creature, because quite frankly it's a miracle the book is even intact to any degree. I've used it that much. Cthulhu is a bit of a love affair of mine, really. It's a system that, for those that have played it, is easily recognisable, and for those that haven't played it, it's, for some reason, it just has that something. You know, like people talk about the X factor? For me, the system has that little extra. You know, that's something that you cannot quite quantify, but it exists in Cthulhu, that makes you compelled to come back and play it again and again and again. And it's one of those games. Now, there are, in essence, if you had to describe Cthulhu in a quick nutshell, you would say it was a horror role-playing game. That would be the easy analogy to actually give it, based off the work, of course, of H.P. Lovecraft. But, of course, its inspiration comes from so many other sources, as Edgar Allan Poe, probably even a bit of Sherlock Holmes is built into the very essence of this game. It's got so much to it, but it is the mythos, the unusual, the creatures that came out of the mind of H.P. Lovecraft and the settings that he put it in that really define this game. Now, what I love about Cthulhu, really, what setting is it? Where does it sit? What is its sort of theme? And the theme and tone is fairly obvious, but where does it actually sit in a timeline? It doesn't. Wonderful thing about the system is it can be based anywhere, really. It's obviously a what you would call a world setting, our own world setting. Of course, you could go futuristic with this game. It has been done. But it's our own world setting. You can go back as far as you want. Egyptian time, you can go back further, Roman, before Christ. There's a multiple number of ways you could use this system cleverly, I think, and quite happily tap into the traditional human timeline and then take something and skew it slightly. So you could take the Titanic sinking and skew it to Cthulhu Mythos. I mean, there's so many things you could do. I'm a great fan of, a lot of games tend to fall into the traditional Cthulhu trap. Now I'm going to have to explain this a little bit carefully, because for those people who don't understand Cthulhu it may not make much sense. But the general premise of Cthulhu is the investigators, that's the characters, the people you would play, will look into a mystery, they'll begin uncovering it and eventually find out that something pretty horrific is behind it. When you find out what is horrifically behind it, generally one of three things happen. You die, you run away, or you die again. No, you run away, you die, or you may survive, but still by running away. You know, generally those are really the only three conclusions you can have for Cthulhu. But I think that's the short-sighted, bad approach. Cthulhu can be run so many different ways. For example, you could run it as a one-shot at a convention. It would work very well, be very popular at conventions. It always is. It could be a sustained campaign, but you have to be able to understand how to balance the little nuances that exist, because in this game one of the critical points of character building is the fact that your characters can go insane. Now I didn't mention that as well. I said that they die, they run away, or they might survive, but actually they might die, run away and become insane. The conclusions are never good when you talk about Call of Cthulhu. So why is it so universally loved? That's the X factor. That's the reason why it's so difficult to quantify. But the bare bones of the system, I'm going to open this book up a little bit. I think if we take a look at the sort of way it's been written and some of the artwork in this book, I mean, this is a softback book. You can see that it has the papers all very Cthulhu-esque, the pictures are very Cthulhu-esque, and they do a good job throughout, little paper cuts and tears in the paper and the general feel of it. That I really like the way they've done the 6th edition. You know, it just oozes Cthulhu. The typeset's lovely. I love the titles, the way they've done all the titles at the top of the pages. I absolutely love that, and they've put a lot of energy into making this as easy as it can be to build a character. They've even got a beautiful section here in page 36, I think it starts. Well, it actually starts on page 35, but in essence talks you through how to roll up a character, and it's probably actually one of my favourite sections for basic people. You know, if you had to explain in a role-playing book how to roll a character up, that is a beautiful way to do it. It is effortlessly easy for a brand new GM to have a look, to work out how to roll a character up, and ultimately explain to his players how to do it. There's no finer compliment that I can give than that. If you've played Cthulhu before, this book is going to be, it's like a comfortable pair of shoes. It's going to be really easy to pick up, flick through, understand. It's very well laid out. I thought the index was excellent. The timelines that they use in the back of the book, the timeline effectively is a human timeline. And it's all about natural disasters and man-made things that have happened. So there's a beautiful set of timeline, things that give you inspiration for building stories. Now recently I watched one of Dungeon Master Johnny's videos, and in that he talked about using the news. Brilliant tip, because that's exactly what Cthulhu is almost telling you to do, and nobody had drawn that conclusion, I think, for quite a while, that the news is a great source of inspiration, and this game can be oodles of fun to do that with, to be honest with you, and that's why, in essence, I love it. It is brilliant. Now, I don't run it the traditional sense of the way that I've described. Now, I like to, my Cthulhu games tend to have definitely investigative, that's another big part of Cthulhu, but it drives the players through dealing with the machinations of various people, their cultists, their followers. And it's that X factor part, that these things might exist, that is the driving force behind it. I feel a great Cthulhu campaign, because obviously if you meet these things, they're virtually godlike, they're virtually unbeatable. And you probably are likely to die or go insane. There isn't really much leeway for escape, generally. It's pretty impossible. So I tend to leave them right out of it. And I love it that players could play 2 or 3 years in a campaign and not actually meet anything, and then suddenly when they do, that's really what's great about Cthulhu. Because what you're really doing, you're the bastion, if you like, you're the bastion of trying to create horror role-playing. So imagine that you're trying to put on a Halloween event when you do Cthulhu, and to scare people. That's the cornerstone of what makes Cthulhu brilliant. That your players should come away having had fun, but also a little bit, whoa, oh wow, that was actually pretty freaky. Now, how do you do that in Cthulhu? Well, generally, the way that I've done it is you create the atmosphere. This is such an important game for atmosphere, same as Vampire the Masquerade. Critically important to get that atmosphere in the room. That means a setup, a darkened room, maybe candles burning, a little bit of background music, get the theme right if you want. A great one to get the players to dress up in character. I always find that's a great thing. Particularly for a game like this. It does give you that inspiration. It doesn't tell you in the book to do it, but it inspires you to want to find your inner Cthulhu and deliver what I would call a tour de force in Cthulhu, and give those players around that table the scariest night of their lives, or the scariest campaign. But in essence, that's what's lovely about Cthulhu. It is exactly that. Now, if I read the back of the book for a moment, we're going to talk a little bit about H.P. Lovecraft's mythos, because it's going to talk about it here. And what is the mythos? What does that really mean for someone who's brand new to the review? The great old ones ruled the earth eons before the rise of man. Remains of their Cyclopsian cities can still be found on remote islands in the Pacific, buried amid the shifting sands of vast deserts and in the frozen wastes of the polar extremes. Originally they came to this world from the stars. Now they sleep, some deep within the earth, others beneath the sea. When the stars are right, they will rise once again and walk the earth. They then go on to explain, of course, that the book is inspired by the world of H.P. Lovecraft. If you read any of those stories, Mountains of Madness, there were so many great stories he wrote. It oozes from the very pages of this book. But what I love, personally, about this particular system, it hasn't changed really very much over the years. That is testament to how very good the whole game actually is. It's testament to the fact that they got it right from the very, very beginning, and have had to only tweak little bits in various, like Gumshoe's an example of an offspring, or people have taken the bare bones of this and created basic role-playing. And that's what's beautiful about this game. You can have this, and it can inspire you to create your own RPGs, because the essence of this is easily portable to other genres and is a lot of fun. And that really is the X factor of why I give this particular game the utmost respect. And it is a game for pretty much any GM to cut their teeth on and run a sustained campaign and at least try something out There are many, many classic campaigns that have already been written for you in Cthulhu, but it is a great one to base stories in and have fun, and it has got so many ways that it can be used. One-offs, Halloween, conventions, long-term games. It is no wonder that a lot of experienced DMs come back time and time again to Cthulhu. So, although I haven't really gone into the specifics of this exact book, what I hope that I've done in my 10 minutes or so is inspired you to want to go out, if you've never already seen it, find out about the mythos, find out about the works of H.P. Lovecraft and why he is so universally loved, his inspiration, his creativity, why it has become Cthulhu, what makes Call of Cthulhu so unique. What makes us come back is the very sound of the Call of Cthulhu, and what it is about our relationship with this system that we can stand here and not really talk about the book, more the inspiration behind what is Cthulhu, and say without any really shadow of doubt, if a game has an X factor, this has got it, and Cthulhu is one of them. It's a special game. Anyway, I've been Sean Connors talking to you about Cthulhu. This is the 6th edition, but Cthulhu in general. I hope you've enjoyed it. Speak to you all soon. Take care of yourselves and happy gaming. Bye bye for now.